Welcome back to the podcast summer series. If you haven't noticed, I have been releasing an extra episode all summer long, summer of 2026, to just kind of bring you some podcast basics. Now, this isn't about podcast launching. This is kind of like the after launch, right? After, although some of these may go well for while you're launching. But I really wanted to kind of dive into some of the tools and the tech that I use. And today I wanted to talk to you about something that is very popular in podcasting right now. And that is exactly what I'm doing: video. So I am releasing my Friday episodes not only on my hosting platform Captivate, which then gets distributed out to Apple and Spotify and Overcast and all the other places that you might listen to podcasts, but I'm also releasing these episodes out as individual videos on YouTube. Now, I'm doing this because in October, I want to do a little kind of comparison to see if YouTube actually did a lot of growth for my show or if it just kind of remained the same. And what better time to do kind of like an extra series than summer, right? Something different in summer so that people can get an idea and a thought process of what I do and how I do it and all of that. So and test it out. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does work, great. Then I have some data to follow up with. So I wanted to just kind of explore more about video and what my thoughts are about it and what the world is seeing for video right now. Let me tell you that video right now is actually becoming even more widespread, meaning not only can you upload your video of your podcast to YouTube, but then you can also upload it separately to Spotify. And if you are paying inside of your hosting platform, your podcast hosting platform, if you're paying for Apple's HSL feature, then you can actually upload your video there. There is an additional fee for most of the hosting platforms that I've seen. And it also depends on megabytes and how long they are and things like that. So be aware that your hosting platform might do this, but that it could be cost prohibitive for you, depending. But realistically, the whole thing about video podcasting could be cost prohibitive. And I'm going to get into that too. So let's just talk about the reach here, right? So if you are not only putting out your audio on your hosting platform, you're getting the reach of all of those people there, right? You're getting the reach of anybody listening on all of the distribution platforms. And there are hundreds of distribution platforms. A lot of the more popular, well-known ones are Spotify and Apple and Overcast and Podcast Addict, and I'm trying to think of all the different ones. There's a whole bunch of them, right? And then there is the crossovers. Apple is now a crossover. Spotify is a crossover. YouTube's a crossover. Now, in order to get onto Apple, you do have to add your HSL into your hosting platform. So that is one thing. I'm not quite sure if you can upload it directly to Apple. You can check into that if you wanted to upload it separately somewhere else. I know that in Spotify, you have to create an account. And then once that is, you pull in your RSS feed and then you can upload a video right there and it will allow video or the audio to be seen or heard to its viewers, its listeners. And then as far as YouTube, it actually creates two different feeds for it. So if you have your RSS feed pulled in, it's going to have just that static image of your graphic, of your cover art, and that's going to play audio. And if you have the video, it's going to play that. Here's a couple of things that you have to think about when you are doing video. You're going to reach more listeners no matter what, because there's a lot more different platforms out there, right? Because ultimately, not only could you use that particular video on YouTube, Spotify, and again, on Apple, if you chose to, you could upload it to Facebook. You could upload it to your favorite, hosting platform as far as your social media that you might want. You could do reels from it and then post those to Instagram or, talk about it on Threads or whatever your platform of choice is, right? TikTok even. If you have one of those TikTok accounts and it allows you to do an hour long, I'm pretty sure you could just upload it, the entire episode there if you wanted to. Then you also have the ability for people to find you on all of those different platforms. And, there is strength in being widely dispersed like that. If that is something that you want to explore, then go to where the masses are. That doesn't mean, though, that you have to do video. It doesn't. You could still upload the audio to some of these platforms with just your cover art or a graphic on top of it. You don't have to upload it with a video of you talking, a talking head video. This is kind of what I'm doing right now, just a talking head video. Now, again, if you're not watching and you're listening, then, it's the exact same. It's the exact same. I don't actually edit them any different. I really don't do anything additional to these. The part that I find most cumbersome is I have to watch and look at the camera, right? I have to look at the camera in the eye at all times. So when I'm looking down at my notes, you can see that. And then when I really want to make my information known, heard, and all that, I feel the need to look directly into the camera so that you can see that I am paying attention to you. In audio, I don't have that. Actually, as a matter of fact, most of the time when I'm doing an audio only, I don't even turn the camera on. So it's just me sitting here chit-chatting. And I feel a lot more relaxed that way. That is me. And here's the other thing about me. I actually don't mind being on camera. I used to own my own brick and mortar store and I was on camera. I had my own TV show. I was on camera. I've done grand openings for different stores and different events where I have either been a friend or a worker, coworker, or whatnot. And they've given the camera over to me and been like, yeah, can you talk about this? Absolutely. I have no problem being on camera. None. But it's a lot more work, a lot more of a thought process to go into it. So while yes, it does extend your reach, you reach new audiences, maybe you have other things there. YouTube's the second largest search engine, right? So if you are really optimizing your podcast name and titles and things like that, adding in those, what are they, the timestamps, adding in those timestamps, it's really going to allow that reach to be even further than you have. Even if you only release your audio as a video on YouTube, you can still go in, add some timestamps if you wanted to, and you can actually add a thumbnail as well. So you can still do a lot of things to help boost that audio only podcast on those platforms. There just won't be any video of you talking. That could be okay too. Now, I'm not trying to really talk you out of video, but let me also tell you a few other things about video. The production of video is a lot more costly. I will say this as a producer of audio. I do audio production for a number of clients. I also do some video production for some other clients. And let me tell you, your camera matters, your microphone matters, your lighting matters, and all of that adds up to whether or not you have really good video, really good quality. It's not just your voice that they're listening to. Now they're paying attention to other pieces, right? They're like, oh, she made that weird face. I don't know. Or maybe they're looking at your background. And so they're not paying attention. So there's a lot of things to consider. Like, do I zhuzh my background up? Do I add plants? Like, that's supposed to be something, you're supposed to have a background that is more like clean looking with some greenery in it, maybe like a little frame with a saying in it or affirmation in it or something. And you know what? I'm recording from my office. This is my office. What you see behind me, this is all the crystals I own, my drum, this is all my oracle cards. This is my son's hat from when he was in the Marines. And yes, I try to have a little bit of greenery in here, but these are all my sweatshirts for when I get cold. Sometimes you might see, maybe a cat jump through or a dog or something. I even have one of these like little fancy lights in the background here. But you know what? It's me, and I don't necessarily want to do video on a full-time basis to change it. I did at one point, try that, and I created this beautiful landscape over here. You can't see it, but just a beautiful landscape that is just a plain background, nothing spectacular about it. It just wasn't me. It just wasn't what I wanted to do to get my voice out there and heard. So be aware of what your background looks like. Be aware of, where you are, your space, and your intuition. How does that feel to you when you do a video? I recently had a client and she is launching her podcast. And now she told me from the get-go she wanted to do video. And then she realized it's too hard. I'm trying to, pay attention to my notes, and I'm trying to talk, and I'm trying to do all these things. And I'm not looking down. I'm looking down and I look ridiculous, and I'm looking up and I'm looking ridiculous, or whatever the case may be. And she was uncomfortable. That is never the goal of your video. That is never the goal of your podcast. If you make your podcast be uncomfortable, you're not going to continue. So do what you can with what you have. And if you're not comfortable on camera right away, don't produce a video podcast right away. Start with audio and then maybe do a little summer series like I am, where you throw them in on occasion. Maybe you just do a separate one and those ones go up on YouTube as a separate audio and video. Now, when you do that, make sure that this is the podcast growth coach in me. Make sure you grab the stats from both the RSS feed that you have in your hosting platform, the YouTube RSS feed, and also the stats for that particular video that you posted. So you're going to add all three of those together. If you add it to Spotify and that's not aggregated, make sure if you add it to Substack. I didn't even get to Substack. Substack too, you can upload the video to Substack and have that up there as well. So there's lots of other platforms for you to be able to use and be seen and be heard and all that. So, but here's the thing. Not only did it take you more time to do the video, not only does it take you more time to edit the video, but then it takes you more time to upload all those videos everywhere. They don't all go up. It's not an easy, just push a button and they all go up. Maybe AI will get there someday, but I have not successfully been able to get AI to do all of that for me correctly. So how's that? All right. And there's another thing I just want to touch upon, right? We kind of talked about it very briefly, but just one thing. It's your comfortability around the camera. I talked about my client that it has decided that she's not comfortable doing that. You need to make sure that you are comfortable if you want to be recorded. If you are waking up in the morning and having to take a shower, put on a ton of makeup, get your hair all done up and fabulous and all of that, wear the right clothes, make sure the background looks amazing, and you're spending hours on that for your podcast episode, for your video, take that into account when you are writing down how many hours each episode is taking you. Because at the end of the day, you don't want this to be an expensive hobby. You want this to be a money-making machine where people are listening to your authority and they're moving forward with you based on listening to you and your expertise. And if that means that they don't see you on a regular basis, then they don't see you on a regular basis. So keep that in mind. Okay. So now that you have that, again, audio first is really great. I know a lot of people are really wanting to go the video route. If that is what you want, I fully support it. But here's a couple of other pieces that you might want to consider. Other than the fact of the gear that I talked about in the first episode of this podcast basic series, I talked about the gear. And that is going to be not only your microphone, maybe your headphones, but also your webcam and maybe lighting. Right now, I'm in summertime, and so the sun is shining in on an afternoon, so I look great. This is a great time for me to record. But let me just tell you, in 2 months, it ain't going to be the greatest time for me to record because the sun's going to be further down, and I'm not going to look as great. I'm going to need fancy lighting. So keep that in mind as well, right? When that happens. Then you're also going to be taking a look at what you're recording in. Now, you could record, as I do, just directly into Zoom. That works out perfectly fine. Or you could actually record directly into Descript. You could do that. Riverside, StreamYard, Zencaster, all of those places that we've talked about before in all of the recording. You can do that if you wanted to do it with a video podcast. That would be fine. Again, the setup is similar to what you're talking about. And then, here's the other thing. You'll want to probably create shorts or reels based on the content that you have. Now, I haven't done so with any of these. I could have, I probably should have, or I probably should. I don't like to say should necessarily, but I probably could in the future. I don't have to do it right now because all my episodes are evergreen. So I'm happy to say, you know what? When I have a moment, I will do that. And so, but if you are trying to get more reach, more people, you might want to put out reels. You might want to put out TikToks. You might want to put out, shorts for YouTube. You might want to get more ears and eyes on snippets of your content to pull them into the bigger content. That's something to consider if that's something you want. Don't forget chapters. We have chapters inside of your audio. If that is something that you are creating, then you'll want to make sure that that is something that's searchable on YouTube. They allow you to do chapters on YouTube. Make sure that your chapters have some SEO type quality to it, some type of organic keywords, so that it's easy to search for that one piece. Now, here's the thing about keywords that I have experienced in the past, and that is if somebody's looking for that one section, they'll just watch that one section. I'm not a big fan of that. I am, and I'm not, because I really feel like I want you to listen to the whole thing, because just because I had one section that talked about something that you wanted, maybe I touched upon it somewhere else too. And if you're not listening to the whole thing, then you might not catch everything. So be aware that while chapters are good for SEO, I feel like it's only a small snippet, a small section of what you're really about. And so just be aware of that as you're creating your videos and as you're creating your chapter markers for your audio and your video. So just keep that in mind. Now, videos will allow you to do a dedicated playlist for your podcast, and that can actually be done in some hosting platforms as well. This podcast video summer series, or this podcast audio summer series, I'm actually creating a playlist directly on Captivate, where after it's done, I can just send people to this and they can listen to all 11 or 12 episodes, however many I have at the end of the series. And that way I have it all there. It's just one playlist. I can do that in YouTube as well. And just have a playlist specific for the different pieces of what I'm talking about, whatever that might be, whether or not that's launching or that's growth or whether or not that is the podcast summer series, you can kind of delineate that. You can also do that with your individual episodes within the RSS feed on YouTube as well. So I'm not trying to poo-poo video. I'm really not. But what I'm saying about video is it does take a little bit more time. It's something that you have to fully believe in and commit to. It is being seen or it is being heard. Not everybody sees it. That's the other thing. Give it a test. Give it a go. See how much traction you're getting. Maybe you're super charismatic on camera and people are just eating it up. And maybe you're not. And that's okay too. So I wanted to kind of give you like this overview of video podcasts. Again, it sounds like I'm very negative towards it. I'm so sorry if you really feel that way. I'll have more data on how this experiment went with me, as I said, in October, beginning of October. So I can kind of give you an idea of how much my podcast either grew or didn't grow based on these video podcasts that I'm putting out. It is a tool, but it's not a requirement. And you can just start with what you can sustain. And that's what's important. That really is what is important. If you do not feel like you can sustain a video podcast, then just start with audio and then work up to maybe one video a month or two videos a month. and then go from there until you really love it and you're really drawing it in. Because, there's also other little bits and pieces you put in. I don't even put in those, like the little subscribe here button or do you see this, this past episode? People do that all the time. I don't do any of that either. So there's a lot to it and a lot of other nooks and crannies for you to be able to explore in order to really make it a go on your video podcast. If you are interested in creating a video podcast series, I have an amazing woman that I have talked to in the past. I'm actually part of her school community. Her name is Sabino, and I will link her school community down below. I think it's super cheap for what she offers, and she goes right through all sorts of different YouTube stuff. And I learn a lot from her for myself and for my clients. So I'm going to link that so you can see and you can maybe learn something from a YouTube expert like her. So, all right. Let me know if you decide whether or not a YouTube style or a video style podcast is in your future. I'd love to know. Send me a message, kim@kpcreativemedia.com. And until next time, where your voice flows, your business grows. See you next week. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me today. If you're ready to deepen your visibility and grow your podcast in a way that feels aligned, come join my email list at kpcreativemedia.com/newsletter, where I share exclusive guidance, support, and next steps. And if this episode resonated, I'd be so honored if you left a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the most powerful ways to support the show and help other spiritual women discover it. Until next time, keep showing up and sharing your voice.